Why don't you pay them the minimum wage?
I'm not a business owner.
Why won't you pay them the minimum wage, Shalkat? These are vulnerable people, Shalkat. How can you justify underpaying them?
I cried so many times.
So the system is very much stacked against people speaking out.
So what are you going to do?
I don't know, I just keep searching.
We're often told that immigration is the backbone of Australia's economy. Since Federation, those who've come to our shores have come with the hope that they could build a new and better life for themselves, off the back of a promise that they'd be afforded the same rights as their fellow Australian workers. But it doesn't always turn out that way. Some instead get trapped in a hidden labour market where they're hesitant to complain about their treatment and scared to speak up against their employer for fear of deportation. So what's life like in the shadows for Australia's newly arrived working migrants?
你好，可以留一张简历吗？如果有兴趣。
Jonathan is here on a temporary student visa. He's studying engineering at UNSW, but tonight he's looking for a job.
那一天时间是，想请问一下您这边工资是多少呢？
大概都
12、13是吗？1小时。
If that doesn't sound like much, that's because it isn't. In fact, it's illegal. It's 10 below the standard for that role and 5 below the minimum wage.
就是早上10点到晚上10点。
哦，12个小时。
对，140。
140。
对，就是说，如果是不休息的情况下，可能调到150。
How much did it cost for you to study in Australia?
Only the tuition fee would cost us around, let me do the calculation, that should be $80,000 for 2 years.
So, I mean, for a lot of Australians, they might look at Chinese international students and think they don't need any help. They've got wealthy parents, they drive Porsches and nice cars and wear expensive watches. Are you in that category?
Obviously, I'm not in that category. I'm not one of them. That's a stereotype, doesn't mean that all of us has to be like that. So just like my mom, she was working in she's working in a supermarket. We don't have a family business. It's not like some of the millionaires or billionaires. 哦，那你现在是没有到15吗？是就是每天日结付现吗？还是？
一般是日结。
那1小时有多少钱？12块。It's not easy. It's always not easy, especially for a person abroad who's holding a student visa and had a limited working hours.
International students are often limited to a 20-hour working week. In that time, and on the wage Jonathan's being offered, he wouldn't be able to make more than $200 to $300. Hey Jonathan, how'd you go?
I've been to 7 or 8 places and most of them are willing to take me, but none of them would pay me more than 15. I think the average price would be like 12.
There are 700,000 international students in Australia. It's a lucrative $34 billion industry. A national temporary migrant survey found that almost a third are being paid less than $12 per hour, and many aren't even hiding it. A study by Unions New South Wales revealed that almost 4 in 5 Chinese, Korean, and Spanish jobs illegally advertise rates of pay below the legal minimum.
I saw that Australia advertising looks like heaven.
Angela is from South Korea. She came to Australia on a working holiday visa, but it hasn't been the picture-perfect postcard she'd imagined.
Like everyone just relax on the beach area. I saw the one photo, people's getting around in the Bondi Beach and wearing a Santa Claus hats. Was yeah, it was like, oh wow, that looks really good. And it seems like I can have that moment after I arrive in Australia. Yeah.
Over the last 5 years, Angela has worked in a range of different jobs, and in every role, she's been underpaid. First, there was the farmer that said he could only pay her $4 to $6 an hour as a fruit picker.
Why are you only paying this much to us? And then he's saying, if you don't want, you get another job.
Then there was the Korean cafe in Sydney, where she worked for $11 an hour.
Oh, can we make a contract? And I think, oh, in Korean society in Sydney, like we don't do that. Why? Are you going to report with this?
In her last job, she was a supervisor. It was at a cleaning company contracted to a race course. There, she received just $15. The award rate for that role is just over 27. But because Angela mainly worked weekends and public holidays, she was underpaid by up to $45 an hour and literally paid in darkness.
I have to be like invisible sometimes. That's what my manager said in the beginning. So I tried to, but I don't know how to be like invisible because obviously I'm working in there.
But the thing that really got to Angela was when she discovered one of her colleagues hiding behind some bins.
And he was eating the leftover food from the customer. And I told him like, oh, why are you hiding? And then he just put all the food inside of his mouth. But on that day, it made me very sad. I cried so many times. I just felt like, why only Korean workers in here had to do it like this?
Now you might be thinking, well, if you're being underpaid, your conditions aren't safe and you're not getting the same rights as others, then why don't you just get a new job? Well, many try, but the stakes are high and many visas only give you about 60 days to find yourself a new job. Or you could find yourself on a plane back to where you came from.
It might be happen tomorrow, it might be happen day after tomorrow. We go back to that place where I've been under attack, where the people, they will target me again.
Munib, an asylum seeker from Pakistan, was lucky enough to be taken in by a Melbourne couple. For Munib, the price of being sent home is especially high.
I just try to hide my face from these people because they recognize me. So I've been under attack in 2011 while I'm performing my security duty outside of my religious place in my hometown. I still remember when the first bullet crossed my head, and I can't run faster than bullet. I was really traumatized. I said, oh my God, they are serious. They seriously want to kill me. This is MITA. Yep.
That's the detention facility?
Yeah, this is the start from here. This is the new area they built for the high-risk people. It's totally isolated.
What was your expectations when you came to Australia?
My expectation is very clear. Like I came to Australia for peaceful life, to be stay in this country with completely harmony, that fully free, and like I can live with own freedom, with my religion. But unfortunately, when I was arrived, I've been detained by immigration, and they put me more than 3 years in detention center. I saw so many deaths, and I saw so many people, they harm themselves, they try to cut their nerves, and so many things like that. Today, I come back here again to see these fences. It's just like a nightmare for me.
Munib is still fighting to receive refugee status, but he was granted a bridging visa that allowed him to work full-time. After visiting as a customer, he was offered a job at this supermarket in Brunswick, Melbourne.
At Hayat Supermarket, during my shift, I'm everything over there. Dealing with suppliers, dealing with customers, dealing with everyone. That's under my duty. Taking care of the counter, refilling the shelves, cold drinks, milk, yogurts, cosmetic stuff. I love to be engaged with the people. He offered me $12 per hour. In August, he told me that if you should start work at night shift since 1st September, so I will pay you $14 per hour. I didn't ask him to increase my salary, but by himself he said, okay. I said, okay, I don't mind, do it. Because I don't know about these things. I just released from detention center.
Munib was never asked to sign an employment agreement. He didn't know the minimum wage was $19.50, and he should have been getting penalty rates for the weekends, holidays, and night shifts he consistently worked. When Munib took his case to the Migrant Workers Centre, he found out that he was being underpaid by up to $45,000.
A lot of money. Munib's case is not rare. It is all too common, and we see it everywhere. We see it in all sectors of the economy. We see it in retail, we see it in hospitality. Most famously, I guess, we see it on farms, but there's exploitation of workers across the entire economy. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, really.
The Migrant Workers Centre says Munib wasn't the only employee being underpaid at Hyatt Hypermarket. 3 or 4 other temporary visa holders were also being ripped off, which means Shaukat Ali Khan, their boss, has some questions to answer. So I decided to confront him outside
Okay.
his store.
Hey, hi, Marty from SBS. I have some questions about your staff. Are you aware that you're underpaying them?
After the break, the 25-minute chase of Shaukat Ali Khan through the streets of Melbourne and the many ways his story changed.
Munib, do you plan to pay him?
I'm in Melbourne to confront the owner of Hyatt Hypermarket, who's been underpaying his migrant workers by tens of thousands of dollars.
Jolcat? Hey, hi, Marty from SBS. I have some questions about your staff. Are you aware that you're underpaying them? No. Are you aware that you're underpaying your staff?
No.
You know that it's wage theft to not pay them the right amount of money. You owe Munib $45,000. Do you plan to?
Munib.
Munib, do you
No.
plan to pay him?
Not Munib.
He worked for you.
No, I'm not running a shop. I'm not a business owner.
This is your shop here, is
No,
it not?
not a business owner.
Well, you were about to open the shop.
No.
We saw you were about to open the shop.
I'm not a
At 10
business
a.m..
owner. I'm not a business owner, man. I'm not a business owner.
You can't claim not to own your own shop, Shellcat.
I'm not a business
Why
owner.
are you stealing wages from
I'm not a business owner.
Why
man.
are you stealing
Alright,
wages
come on,
from
man.
your workers?
I'm not.
These
my
are
business.
vulnerable people. They're international students
I'm not a business owner,
and an
man.
asylum seeker.
I'm not a business owner.
They'd
What
like
I'm
to
trying
be
say?
paid the minimum wage.
I don't know Munib. Who's Munib you're talking about?
How can you justify and act like you don't even know who he is? He worked for you tirelessly. He's an asylum seeker. He spent 3 years in detention, Shulkat. How long did you think you could just get away with it?
Munib, I know him, but I'm not the owner at all.
So Shaukat made a lot of claims. First, that he's not the business owner, but we've seen his ASIC profile, and according to that, he was the business owner right up until 2014 when he transferred it into his wife's name. The other claim that he makes is that he doesn't know Munib as an employee, but I've seen the text messages that he sent Munib where he talks about owing wages, being late in payments, and Munib's upcoming shifts. And the thing is, when bosses like Shaukat underpay their workers, it doesn't just affect people like Munib. It affects all of us, because it also means they pay less tax that state governments can use for roads, health and education, which is something that Hannah, not her real name, knows firsthand.
When I was working as an accountant in a Korean accounting firm, most of the clients, I would say like 90%, would be able to not pay any a wage tax or superannuation because they don't need to report those wage expenses.
How are they getting around that?
Because they also get some income, like a sales income in cash, and they don't really report those cash incomes. They use that money to pay their employees cash on hand.
And when you discovered that, what did you do about it?
I couldn't really ask about these issues to my bosses because it seemed like it happened a lot actually, almost every day.
And the accountancy firm was complicit in that?
Yeah.
I think there is a systematic problem in this country where business is relying on the exploitation of migrant workers to run their businesses.
Mark Morey is the Secretary of Unions New South Wales.
If I go into a coffee shop and I grab the tip jar and I run out with it, I get arrested for theft, I get prosecuted, potentially going to jail.
But here's the thing, while paying someone like Munib below the minimum wage is illegal, it's not a criminal offence. And that depends on whether the worker is willing to bring it up in the first place. 9 out of 10 of wage theft victims suffer in silence. Of those that do come forward, only 3% take their complaint to the Fair Work Ombudsman. The vast majority of them never get the full amount back. If we can't punish the crime, Angela is hoping to prevent it. She volunteers at Kauai, where she helps young Koreans navigate their way through the workplace. What is it that you would want then?
Just treat like same, equally, like what others treat as well.
Angela's wish recently came true. She got a job in the occupation she's trained for, childcare. And this time, she's getting paid a standard wage.
We are not different, we're all same.
For Munib though, his life hangs in the balance.
I don't know what's going to happen next, but I always think positive. I never get negative. So that's why I'm still alive.
And Jonathan? What's next? What are you going to do?
I don't know, I just keep searching.